Hello, today we have a video all about Major Slayer. Okay, so Major Slayer in ESO increases damage dealt in dungeons and trials by 10%. Great. Okay, 10% is a huge value. That's massive. You're gonna want this buff if you're doing raids, doing trifectas. Okay, so how do we get it? ESOHub.com tells me that Major Slayer only comes from these sets. Now, I will say Perfected Roaring Opportunist and Roaring Opportunist give the exact same thing. The Perfected doesn't matter. They're just required to put this here legally. Um, so, like, hear me out. You know, Roaring Opportunist and Perfected, same thing. To the Locustes, Perfected to the Locustes, same thing. So basically, we're going to knock it down to Locustes, 1, War Machine, 2, Roaring Opportunist, 3, Master Architect, 4. You have 4 sets in the game that are going to be able to give you and your team Major Slayer. If you do not have any of these sets, you will not be getting that 10% damage buff, and that's huge. You want that. Okay, so let's first take a look at Master Architect and War Machine. The reason we're taking a look at both is because if you read the tooltip here, the 5-piece, when you use an ultimate ability while in combat, you and the closest 5 group members within 28 meters gain Major Slayer 1 second per 10 ultimate spent. That is the exact same thing as War Machine. They do the exact same thing. There's no difference. Literally no difference. The difference here is the line of Max Stam on War Machine and the line of Max Mag on Master Architect, and the fact that Master Architect is a light armor set. I'm surprised they don't tell you this on the website, but yeah, Master Architect is a light armor set, and War Machine is a medium armor set. Those are the only differences. One can be worn, let's say you put War Machine on a DD or a tank that can wear medium armor, whatever. Like in dungeons, sometimes they put War Machine on a tank, and they're able to do that because medium armor is not so bad. Or DDs already wear medium armor these days anyway for more damage, so War Machine can be put on them. Master Architect is more of a healer thing, right? We're gonna put Master Architect on a healer because they're already usually wearing light armor, anyway. So this would be Master Architect on a healer, and War Machine better on a DD, something like that. That would be the uses. So cool. Let's take a deeper look at it, right? When you use an ultimate ability, so um, you know, let's say you're a DD, right? You're a Necro in War Machine. You're gonna use Colo on your back bar, or most likely. If you're a DK in War Machine, you're gonna use Standard, right? Whatever your ultimate is. Cool. When you use it, you and the closest 5 group members, so that's 6 people total. You're only gonna cover half the group with one of these sets. So that would mean you need 2 of the sets at a time if you want to get full Slayer out to everybody. So 2 War Machines, or a War Machine and a Master Architect, or 2 Master Architects. That's up to you to figure out. Okay, within 28 meters. So 28 meters is pretty large. That's as long as your group is literally like anywhere near you, you're gonna give the Slayer out, right? Okay, so 1 second per 10 ultimate spent. Okay, so let's think about that. In game, you can use a maximum of 500 ultimate. That's like what your ultimate caps out at. So it would be 500 divided by 10. That would be 50 seconds. If I did my math right, you know. So 50 seconds of ulti if you're using 500 ult. Cool. Okay, so War Machine, 2 War Machines in a group because you have to cover 12 people, right? And you want to have both of those people start a fight with 500 ultimate. So this would work really well in fights that take less than 50 seconds or about 50 seconds, because then you're going to get like a 90% plus uptime of Major Slayer, and that's great. As close to a max uptime as we can get. That's fantastic. We love that. So what comes to mind would be Zajasa in VMall, first boss of VMall. This group, they're score pushing VMall, right? So their twins took 37 seconds. There's Ajasa took 39, 36, 46, 38. We're just looking at the 38 for now, just for fun, because it had no deaths. Okay, so they've got a War Machine MK Stamsorg, and then they have a War Machine EC Spalder Pro with a Colo on the background. So 2 War Machines. They don't have any more than that. They only need those 2, right? And then if we go look at their buffs, and then we're taking a look at Major Slayer. Let's count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 people on this list. The only person missing out on the Slayer looks like the main tank. They had a Sork main tank, but all of the DDs got covered. And it looks like Mr. Polaire here got an extra War Machine count. That's fine. Who cares? But look at this, 92%. The person using the War Machine, or both of them, they used it pretty much the same time. Like 2 or 3 seconds into the fight, about 3, they popped their War Machine, and then it lasted for the rest of the fight because, as we said before, War Machine is 50 seconds at 500 ultimate, and this fight was 38 seconds. So they didn't even need 500 ulti to reach max uptime for the fight. 92 is pretty good. We really like that. Looked like it really worked out for this team. Now I will say, let's go ahead and take a peek at where is that again? Master Architect. Okay, so you and the closest 5 group members within 28 meters of you. So what that means is you can't just have 2 War Machines. That's not enough. Just having them and stacking the group together, that doesn't work. So usually what we do in raids is we'll have a left and a right Slayer stack. And it's important for you to be in the right Slayer stack. That way you don't mess up who gets what, right? So we can go and watch this replay, and I guarantee you, since the Slayer went out the way that it should have, you're gonna see them split into stacks. Okay, cool. So here's the tank that missed Slayer. We already talked about him. And here are your Slayer stacks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on this side. Tank could have been over here, but it doesn't matter. They have 1 stack on the left, and then 1 stack on the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's also take a look. The Sork is right stack. The Necro is the left stack. Usually you would want them to be very clearly on their side. You don't want them to mingle because, like, this guy, he's a little far. You could argue that this guy, Polaire, he might, inch in a little closer. And let's remember to take a look. The Slayer went out at 3 seconds, so people can wiggle in that time. Right about here. This is when Slayer would have went out, right? Okay, so this guy, I think that's Toad. He's sure, he's technically in the stack with who he's supposed to be with, Slayer-wise, but he's also inching a little close to this guy, right? He may have messed up Slayer a little bit. He might have. Probably not, but maybe. That's why it's very important. If you have War Machine or MA, you need to have, like, very, very clear stacks, like stack on the person who's giving you War Machine. That way it goes out, the way that it should. Goes out evenly. Because War Machine's weird. It's weird in the way of, like, you can give somebody 2 War Machine procs at the same time, and you can make one person miss out on it. There's no, like, cooldown or anything, so that's just a thing that can happen, and it really sucks because if somebody misses it, like let's say you know, this guy right here, Toad, he gets the proc from both this guy and this guy. He gets 2 procs. Let's say this guy, he just misses out on Slayer just because Toad was standing in a goofy spot. You know, Toad's gonna get 2 procs. This guy's gonna get none, right? That would really suck. That's not what happened in the log, but it's just like an example of something that could happen. Um, that would be really bad because then this guy just loses out on 10% damage, and that's huge. 10% damage is huge. You don't want to lose out on that. You want to make sure that everybody gets the buff. So definitely something to look out for. But yeah, no, the uptime was really good. They did this the right way. They did it the way that they should have, where everybody gets the Slayer except for their main tank, but he's doing stuff. He's busy. You know, cool. But hear me out. Um, what about fights that take a little longer, right? So we can go ahead and take a look at their Rakat. Looks like they didn't finish Rakat, but that's fine. We can still take a look at it anyway and see what they might have messed up on. Okay, so they were probably wiping. Don't worry about that. That's not what we're worried about. If you look at the graph, here is Slayer, right? So here's the Crow, and then here's the Sork putting out Slayer. It goes out and it lasts, if you look at this graph, about a minute or about 50 seconds, roughly, right? Somewhere in the realm of like 50, you know, to a minute. Remember, max uptime is 50 for 500 LT. But then after this, right? I'm sure they were calling a wipe, so they're not going to Slayer ult again. But you, by the end of that Slayer, you would need to build up enough Slayer or enough ulti so that you get enough Slayer out of your ultimate use. So we can go ahead and take a look. If you go to resources and logs, and then, oh yeah, everybody was dying. That's fine. We're not worried about that. Let's go to ultimate. We can look at a graph of their ultimate. So yeah, okay. This is an MK person, or not MK. This is a War Machine person. So he starts out at 500 LT, or well, that looks like it says 360. Maybe let's not look at him. There we go. Doc's got me covered. Cool. Doc started this fight with 500 ultimate. So that would give 50 seconds of Slayer. That's exactly what we talked about before. When he used his ultimate, um, you know, remember how we said that Slayer lasts like 50 seconds, right? So around here is when he, you know, maybe should have ulted again. But he needs to build up enough to make it worth it. Because remember, you only get 50 seconds if you're at 500 LD. And look at how much he built up to. Or, well, can I get closer? How much is this? 210. He built up to 210. That's only like 21 seconds. 21 seconds of Slayer. That's not a lot. 21 seconds is, you know, that's like this portion, right? If he Slayered again. That's not very great. That's even less than this 50 seconds prior, right? So then he's got to build up even more OT. That's where you start getting into the weird part of Slayer sets. Is in longer fights, it's just kind of not gonna be worth it. So you know, pick out every fight like based on how it works and see if using War Machine would be a good fit for it. Something to talk about might be um okay, Sunspire, right? We can go take a look at what Yolnakrin healer mains, fantastic EU group. Let's go take a look at them. Okay, so we'll go look at the Yolnakrin. Dragon fights, they're very phasal. I don't know if that's a real word. I just made it up myself. Um, so we're looking at damage done to Yolnakrin. As you can see, phasal, like I said, right? Here's the burst phase, and then he flies up in the air. You're doing nothing, and then here's another burst phase, another burst phase, another burst phase, right? There's periods in between where you're not doing anything. And each of these burst periods, this is like a previous world record group, so it's going to be really fast. But just for example, right? This is 33 seconds, or what you could mark it down to like 32, right? Roughly about 30 seconds each. That's cool. That's not 50 seconds, so you don't even need a full 500 ulti for this. And then you've got plenty of time to build up ulti in between, right? And I'm sure, let's go take a peek. They've got Crypt Cannon to help them build ulti. They've got Exhilarating Drain to build up more ulti. Everybody's probably using ultimate pots. Where are the War Machine people at? Here's one. This guy. He's using War Machine. Don't see it on another DD. I could be crazy. Oh, here, War Machine on the healer DD. Yes. So they're just gonna build up as much ultimate, and it's probably gonna be enough for these phasal phases. Because like I said, they only need like 30 seconds each phase, right? 30 seconds, break, 30 seconds, break, 30 seconds. So let's go see if they did, right? Let's go see if that worked out. We're looking at their Major Slayer. Okay, interesting. Okay. So does this line up phasally? Ignore the top part. This is probably people just like stealing buffs. We're looking at these guys down here. So Mega Beam. This is Mega Beam's Slayer. And then I'm pretty sure you can get another graph. Compare. Okay, never mind. I'm stupid. I don't know how to do it. Yeah, okay. So we're looking at this. Let me just copy this and put it in a new tab. We're gonna do some fancy fucking Googling here. Okay. And then is this lined up the right way? That's gonna bug me. Do like that. Okay, not quite. Go down a little bit. Okay, cool. This works out. Okay, so here's our damage to Ulnokrin. It's like 30 seconds, blah, 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 blah. Lines up pretty fucking well with the Slayer. Lines up just exact. Pretty much. So that's an example of, using War Machine in a way that works out very well. It covered what it needed to. It covered the parts where you're actually doing damage at. And they were able to build up enough ultimate to make it worthwhile. If this were a fight where it was like you're going the entire 3 minutes, and there's no breaks, right? Then you'd run into some problems where your Slayer doesn't really line up the right way. Okay, so we've looked at Major Slayer for plenty of time, I feel like. So we can go ahead and close that out. And next on our list, we're looking at Tooth of Locustes. Not gonna lie to you, this set used to be meta when it came out. It came out with Sunspire. And War Machine and Master Architect, sure, you could use that for your Slayer, but it wasn't really, like I said, it wasn't great for certain fights, and it wasn't great for certain groups either, because the slower the fight, the worse War Machine's gonna be most likely. So with Tooth of Locustes, you activate Synergy, and the person activating the Synergy, only them, gets Major Slayer for 16 seconds. Okay, so what we used to do is we would put Tooth of Locustes on every single DD. This is a medium armor set, so we'd have a bunch of stam necros or whatever, and they would just keep up their own Major Slayer. But this is really inefficient because, why would, that, then we can't have two parse sets, right? Like Reli Pillar. You'd have to do Locustes Pillar or whatever was meta at the time. I can't remember. wasn't really that good. These days we're able to, like let's say even with War Machine, you put War Machine on 2 people instead of putting Locustes on 8 people, right? You would much rather have the War Machine, I would think. Or even, put Master Architect on a healer. That way War Machine's only on 1 DD. Great. Fantastic. Okay, so Locustes kind of sucks. Throw that out. That's not good. The very, very, very last thing that we're looking at is Roaring Opportunist. This is what most people choose to go with these days because it's just really easy for one person to give out all of the Slayer that a group needs. It's not max uptime Slayer, which sucks, but beggars can't be choosers, right? So, um, how does it work? Let's go ahead and read this. Okay, so after completing a fully charged heavy attack, which I believe takes like with a staff like 1.5 seconds, something like that. You and up to 5 group members gain Major Slayer. So that's gonna be same thing as War Machine. You're gonna have to heavy attack twice. It doesn't mean that you need 2 Roaring Opportunists. You just have to heavy attack twice. The person wearing it. So if you're in Roaring Opportunist, heavy attack twice to get all 12 people. Okay, so for 1 second, for every 600 spell damage, it can only affect the target every 22 seconds. So there's the cooldown. There's the bad part. Maximum duration 12 seconds. So you're most likely gonna reach 12-second durations, just by having like 7,000 spell damage, which isn't too bad, especially considering the raid buffs that we have these days. 7,000 spell damage isn't that bad, right? Because you've got Ignis from the tank, you've got minor brutality, whatever. You'll get there. You'll get to like 7,000, and you'll have just about 12 seconds duration, right? Okay. So 12 out of 22. I don't know the math on that. So let's pull out a calculator. 12 divided by 22. 54%. Isn't it like times 100? It's 54%. Okay, so you're gonna get like half Slayer. That sucks. just using Roaring Opportunist on its own. That sucks. Okay, so what the very smart brains of the ESO community have figured out is if you use the set Yorvold's Guidance in tandem with Roaring Opportunist, it'll extend the Major Slayer so that you get more Slayer, same downtime, which basically just means your uptime goes higher. So let's look at Yorvold's. What does it do? Okay, while in combat, that's increases the duration of all major buffs, minor buffs, and damage shields you apply to yourself and allies by 40%. So major buffs is what we're concerned with today. So that would be the Major Slayer from Roaring Opportunist. So if we're gonna increase the duration by 40%, that means we have to do what was the max uptime? Roaring Opportunist. Max duration 12 seconds. Okay, let's pull out the calculator again. 12 seconds times 40%. We have to add 4.8 seconds onto 12 seconds. So let's just go with 12 plus 5 because I'm a basic bitch. I can't do math. 17 seconds out of the max duration, which is 22 seconds. So now we're at 17 divided by 22, 77%. 77%. Okay, cool. That's a lot better than the 50 we had before, right? We would much rather have 77% than whatever 50 something. Okay, so do we actually get 77% in content? Let's go take a look. This is a good friend of mine, Starchild. Fantastic healer. Love him. He's great. So he's in, let's go take a peek. Mr. Starchild 8425. He's in Yorvold's Guidance paired with Roaring Opportunist. He's gonna be heavy attacking on his back bar with a lightning staff. Oh, yikes! Look at my ad blocker. That guy's putting in work. Okay, so lightning staff. You could use an ice staff. It doesn't matter. He's gonna be heavy attacking with this weapon twice at a time to hit all 12 group members. And he's gonna be doing that every 22 seconds. And then a funny thing about heavies, you can, since it's a fully charged heavy attack, you can start charging up the heavy attack before the timer's done. And if you line it up perfectly, you'll get it directly on that 22 second cooldown, like right after it ends. And you can get close to a perfect uptime, but not quite. What was it? What did we say? 77%? Let's go back and take a peek at what the buffs were. So he's in charge of the Rojo. How did he do? 74 and 72. So half the group got 74% and half the group got 72. The reason it looks like this, or the reason it's not equal, is because he has to start with one heavy attack. And then heavy attacks, remember, they take like 1.5 seconds in between. So heavy attack, and then 1.5 seconds in between, and then another heavy attack. They're going to be staggered like that. So one group is going to get more than the other. Okay, so 74, what was the max? 77? That's that's pretty close. That's pretty close. That's a pretty near perfect uptime if I was gonna look at it, right? Okay, so let's just take a peek at, this is Steph. Oh, we love Steph. Fantastic guy. He got the most Slayer out of everybody. Okay, this is what his graph looks like for Slayer. There's only these little tiny dips in between of no Slayer. It's not that much of a downtime, honestly. Like, you're not really losing much out of this. It's the difference of, let's just say, for example, if Major Slayer is 10% Slayer, or 10% damage increase, and he's getting 74%, he's getting basically 7.5% of that 10% damage buff. So it's realistically only a 2.5% damage loss using Roaring Opportunist over something like War Machine. But even in a fight like this, War Machine isn't going to give you a full uptime anyway. So Roja's pretty good. Or, okay, we call it Roja. Roaring Opportunist, Yorvul's Guidance, Roja. It's pretty good. I mean, you're not really losing much by going with Rojo. The problem is, like we already looked at, you have to put Yorvul's and Roaring Opportunist both on a healer. Like, both of those pieces are going to be going on a healer because they're both light, and that's just the way that we figured things out, right? You're not going to put it on a Stam DD. They're not going to do that. Doesn't make sense. So for like optimization, like gear set optimization for trials, that's gonna pose a problem, when instead, like, let's go take a peek again at the other group. We were looking at Sunspire, the healer mains group. Yes, you're there. Instead of having Rojo on a healer, you're opening yourself up to having a lot of other things, like putting this team decided to go War Machine and another set like PA and Nazare, and then remember they put War Machine on a DD. They just shifted it. They made room for even more support sets rather than putting Rojo all on one healer. That would get rid of like two of these sets. They'd have to move a lot of things around. So having Rojo can cause some problems, and especially to this guy. He's in full medium armor. He's doing damage. This is a healer, so this is Sir Loki, right? Yeah. Loki, the Bifrost wielder. How much damage did he do? He did 62k. Let's take a peek at that. He's doing damage. If he was in double light, if he was in Rojo, he definitely would not have done 62k. He would not have done that much damage. So there's something to think about, right? If you're pushing for more damage, you probably want to go with Slayer sets. You probably want to go with like, solo healer and medium armor, stuff like that. So stuff to think about. That's about it. I don't think there's anything else to really talk about. If you learned stuff, like the video. Thanks for watching.